Hotchkiss Middleton.
Dan Hotchkiss Middleton. Judy Nelson Rollinsford. Susan Moore Rollinsford.
Mark Ferris, Wayne Burton, Durham. Peter Nelson, Westmer, Durham. Steve Pesci, University of New Hampshire.
Rick Healy, Rochester.
Rick Patton with Brigadier Associates.
Kyle Mental, Strafford Regional Planning.
Shayna Sylvia, Strafford Regional Planning.
Thank you, everyone. I'm really excited that today we're going to have a great presentation on economic benefits of solar energy. It's going to be a wonderful, wonderful presentation, so let us begin.
Madam Chair, Nanny Brown, Director of Energy from the state of New Hampshire.
Yes, it's great for you to introduce yourself. I'm sorry, I was busy with that. Yeah, thank you for joining us. And Chris, did you introduce yourself?
I did, but yeah. Well, I'm Rick Patton. I work on the Brownfields program for Strafford Regional Planning.
I'm going to do introductions, but before we get started, does anyone see a recorder? The solar recorders. You have this listed? Just have it. Definitely know where I ended up. I'm recording with the video camera, but just on my phone. Okay, sorry.
Here, this little thing?
It's okay.
Little gray thing?
Yes, that is it. Thank you. Okay. Sorry about that.
perfectly frank, my talk is kind of a wrap-up, very convenient 10-year anniversary for our Durham Energy Committee is coming up, and it's a roll-up of all of the efforts and an attempt to kind of look at the most promising strategies and techniques we use to get to this current moment. And I'm hoping that at the end I'm going to talk a little bit about the finances and the economic paybacks of our solar projects in particular. But New Hampshire is an expensive state for solar, and it's an expensive place for solar developers to make renewable energy a reality. So my talk, I'm going to cheat a little on our pitch. My talk is a little bit about what all of you folks in all of your various walks of life back in your hometowns, little pieces of this puzzle that I think are important, not just to make to earn revenue from solar or to make solar revenue positive. There are ways to do that, and Andrew's a genius at that part of it. It's also to make it more affordable for everybody, including residents, including schools, folks that may or may not be able to realize the biggest projects. So, my talk is in 3 parts. It's 3 tracks of our strategy that honestly have emerged organically from a lot of wonderful leaders. We had great chairs of our committee and great founders. Kevin Gardner from UNH led it for many, many years. We've had a 9-member committee that has rotated around, including people from state government, the town council, Councilor Burton, also a representative is on our committee, members of the planning board, so it's a very strong and very diverse committee. This work is also the work of our town administrator, Todd Selly. He's played a critical role. In the footer of every email you'll get from Todd Selly is a message about climate change and our carbon footprint. He takes it very seriously, and his leadership is invaluable to each and every one of these projects. Our Department of Public Works and our town council and our administration all the way through, little things like getting copies of electricity bills with quickly and efficiently and cheerfully as we try to figure out the economics of this. Those little enthusiasms really make volunteer hours like my committee possible, and I just wanted to share for those of you that are here. Last but not least, we partnered with UNH. Members of our committee are from UNH, and I'm glad Steve Pesci's here. They partnered with us on a charging station, and we benefit immeasurably from their institutional example and literally their brain power on our committee. So with that intro, I'll dive in. There are 3 basic themes that I think are critical to ultimately earning revenue with solar, but also making it affordable and making it even break even. And Durham's Energy Committee's 10-year trajectory focused on each of these at various points. And I want to stress these are simultaneous. You'll often hear that you should do every form of energy efficiency project before you install solar. Or you should measure everything and get 10 years of data before you install solar. I think that there is an order to these things, and it is important before you install solar to know what energy a building uses, but you can tackle different parts of this puzzle simultaneously with the skills you have on hand. So, the metaphor we sometimes use is nutrition or going to the doctor's office. You get weighed, you get your blood pressure, you get some measurements. My doctor told me, hey, here's a motivation for you. Do you want to make an appointment with your grandkids? I said, yes, I would like to make that appointment. And he said, well, here are the measurements, and here are some of the things that need to happen. What usually happens is we need to reduce some of the things we do, like eating and calories, and we need to renew the quality of those materials. You can't do kind of one without the other. We torture this metaphor for energy use and really want to stress that you lower your energy usage and then you make renewable or you use solar for that irreducible remainder. Almost every building has an amount of electricity in a modern society that it's going to need. You apply solar to that reduced amount. So I'll just share, just for a few minutes, some of the things we did on the measurement side. In 2010, we used a small town carbon calculator, which I believe now is Campus Map from the UNH Sustainability department. And a number of UNH students came in and measured everything, all the energy use in the town. And this really was an open question. The Energy Committee did not know. Do vehicles, do buildings, where does our tax dollar go? And for us, 74% of it went to the fuel of our buildings. The blue, a significant chunk went to our vehicles and fueling. And a small but not insignificant went to a special category of municipal paying, which is our street lights. So with that in mind, that was a basic form of measurement. We understood the stakes of the game. We understood how much money, the taxpayers' money, was going out. And we could begin to measure progress against that goal. So this is available from the UNH program, and I can give citations for how to get a hold of it. But this kind of broad survey is extremely useful. Going forward, it's a little challenging to maintain, and because housing was so important, buildings were so important for us, we converted over to the Energy Star Portfolio Manager, which I'm sure many of you, I've talked to many of you about your use of it, in wearing other hats. It is the best place to get weather normalized and square foot and usage normalized information about your buildings. We have an old town hall and we have a new town hall. Different square footage, different winters, as we all know. Very hard to compare those two buildings and even know if we're making a dent, even know if the solar system helped or paid off. Portfolio Manager is the beginning, is an underlying core for making those arguments and those presentations. So I strongly recommend that part of the measurement. Once we had a basic picture of our need, it was very important to us to not build solar for anything that didn't need. Your best energy dollar is the one you don't spend. It's your best investment. People call it the fifth fuel. It is, the payback is unbelievable on not spending money on a propane tank or not spending money on gallons of fuel. So we tackle this in two ways. I like to think of it as projects and policy. Projects are the classic kind of Energy Committee stuff. We identify a site or a location using Portfolio Manager or using the utility bills, and there's an overall building project, and we measure its effects, and we achieve either we do more with the same amount of energy, or we do the same things with less energy. And I'll just highlight a couple because you all have projects in your hometowns a lot like this. LED lighting is one of the best paybacks in the upper left. We also changed much of the technology for dewatering in our sewer plant, have ongoing contracts to make it more energy efficient. We replaced a large amount of the machinery in our hockey rink, and we'll get to what powers the remainder. Again, a work in progress. We're always operating with constraints, with limited budgets, and sometimes donated and found equipment. So we built 2 new buildings, including the one that you're sitting in, the library, to LEED life standards. That's essentially asking the builders to do everything but pay the fees and the commissioning to become a LEED building. That's one strategy, openly debated. We're enjoying, the very, very good results of that experiment. And a genuine LEED building. Is it silver? I can't remember the level. But a genuinely certified LEED building in the town hall, which again, if you visited and you've been in it, compared to the one across the street, it's a delight. These 2 buildings compare favorably to their predecessors, according to Portfolio Manager, in what I mentioned here. I risked everything. understanding the square footage and weather normalized energy intensity of the buildings. So portfolio manager is a key piece to that. We've tried to reduce vehicle petroleum and fossil fuels with a charging station, thanks to the Department of Environmental Services and their New Hampshire Drive Electric grant. I strongly recommend applying for the grant. It's a one-pager. Very rarely do you have grants that don't cost you an arm and a leg just to get 50 cents. This one is streamlined and delightful to work with. And lastly, we've reached out to the community on weatherization with a seminar. Those are the projects we've done. I want to highlight for solar to be affordable and for people to install solar on houses that deserve it, quite frankly, they need to be built to energy efficient standards. They need to be tight, they need to be well insulated, and you really should build that quality in. That's your best dollar, is better construction, better renovations, things like that. Boring stuff, quite frankly, to many of us, the slab insulation or whatever, but it's super important. How do towns influence that? I would just make a pitch that you examine your code, you do some energy planning, you understand what your goals are in terms of the housing stock and your current policies, and then you try to raise the bar with your building code. You also can involve the Energy Committee in the planning process, and finally we'll get to expedited permitting at the end. I'll just say a word. I worked with the Strafford Regional Planning Commission on our master plan. It was fantastic to have professionals driving that and helping it. It was like 4 years of multiple volunteer efforts. But having this energy master plan allowed us to write Durham's energy history and to put solar in perspective in a state with a lot of imported fuels, and put it in the context of our particular resource. So strongly recommend going through that master plan process. In terms of a quick win, Durham is the only town in the state, but 2 other towns, at least 1 other town is seriously considering it. Lebanon, that has adopted the latest printed energy code. New Hampshire is a low regulation state, which can be a curse. There's not a lot of help, there's not a lot of incentives, not a lot of stuff coming down from the state, but it is a local control paradise. Every law in New Hampshire seems to have a clause. If a town wants to do whatever it wants, it can. So I encourage you to also not just think of that as an opt-out, but it's also an opt-in clause. You can say for your town, the state is on the 2009 code, you can say our town is on the latest printed code. And it's an ordinance, and from that moment forward, your building projects are that much more efficient. This relates to solar. It's a little tentative, but I do think buildings built to that new code are more appropriate for solar construction. So, zipping along a little bit, we're involved in the planning. I encourage you to involve energy committees or other experts in your planning process. Checklists and other things. This is just how some of these things work in Durham. And finally, renewable energy, what I promised to talk about in most of my talk. Durham has taken a couple approaches, and I'm going to lean heavily on Andrew Kellar after me to describe the new world, the post-group net metering, the bigger and in many ways much larger scale world of solar. Most of our projects and policies were built with a lot of regulatory uncertainty, and they were sort of artisanal scale and built kind of from the ground up by for us and by us. So this is an example. These are some examples of what you can do on small municipal scale to begin to get experience with this. Our first one, to just sum it up briefly, was a power purchase agreement with Revision Energy. And it was small enough that Revision could be the banker, the owner as well. And it basically produced 3 solar systems. This is just the current lifetime energy. 1 on our hockey rink, 1 may have noticed on your way in on this building with its production since it was installed in 2013. And one very small one, which was a freebie-ish, nothing's free. It was built into the project and we don't pay for the electricity on our police department. I'll just sum up the arrangement of this, and it's not going to make anybody's wallet any fatter. The goal of this was to introduce renewable energy into the grid, to get experience with modest-scale solar electric system, and to match exactly, quite frankly, the best price we could find from third-party electricity suppliers. So the terms of this PPA is, unless we choose to buy it, we will negotiate the best electric rate we can in the open market, and we will pay that rate once a year for the electricity produced by these systems. At the time, the town considered that a reasonable win. It was better than doing nothing. It was the same financially as doing nothing. It was an environmental impact and an experience with this technology, and it involved no new maintenance costs or anything else for the town. No gotchas in terms of something breaks, they replace it to keep this arrangement going. The one potential financial benefit is that in 7 years you can buy the system. You can bond and buy the system, and then you can do, if all is normal in electric rates, you can do better than the best market rate for electricity. So that is something we're about to start, a public deliberation on whether to purchase this array for a large fraction, but a fraction of its original cost, and own it. So that'll be a debate that you'll hear about in the next coming years. So that's PPA 1. Power Purchase Agreement 2, you may have heard about. It's sited in Lee and at a gravel pit owned by Durham, and also the location of an important piece of our freshwater system with UNH, where there's a catchment and a pump house there. It had many of the great characteristics that Andrew Kellar will talk about for qualified projects. It was a landfill that had served its useful life. It could not, because of the water system, be developed into houses, into community gardens, frankly, just about anything. It had beautiful orientation, and it was open, and it was right near something terrible to learn about, three-phase power, which you only learn about when you try to cite these projects where it isn't. But it had all those qualities. So it was a precious site to us. We don't have many of them, to be honest. Durham is a big conservation town. There are not many big open things that aren't being used for viewscapes, rabbit habitat, other important uses that the Energy Committee does not want to compete with. So that's the Oyster River Solar Array. It is a power purchase agreement, not fixed to market rates. And there we had a long, vigorous due diligence process, of which Wayne Burton was a principal leader, where we tried to understand what would be a safe and fair rate for our electricity, somewhere in the 8-cent range, and what would be a reasonable escalation of that range over 20 years. And how does that compare to market rates? I'll share just a tiny bit about the kind of planning that went into it. This is almost indecipherable, except that Wayne, his eyes are twitching now from how long we stared at this. This is a sample of one of the views, and the important thing is that you see the utility, the market price of electricity, and you see the blue line is our solar array. Obviously, the town is happy when the market price is above, and we had a model where you could plug in various assumptions on inflation, on production is fairly well understood, the physics of it. But you could plug all that in and come up with probably what's most important down at the bottom, potential savings over periods of years. And again, this was a project done in the kind of original grant-based subsidy, approval state grant high likelihood of breaking even or making a little bit of money, a chance of really making out if energy prices went, this is locked by the physics of the panel and by our agreement. So if energy prices go insane, we have insurance. There's a value to insurance. And that the potential downside was relatively small. Energy prices could go lower. The other important thing is that if energy prices were to sink, this also has a buyout option in the first day of year 7 because of tax and depreciation law. That's when you can, and the town could bond, could purchase the system, and achieve what arguably is the lowest possible rate for solar, for electricity of all the options. So obviously bonding is no small process for a town to do. So that was PPA 2. The reason we did power purchase agreements is that towns in particular are not eligible for a lot of the income tax credits and the current subsidies. So we would have paid sort of more than the business next to us to get solar installed if we went the pure bond route. That said, some towns have looked at it and said our interest rates are so low, we don't have to pay a banker to do all this fussy stuff. It can work. If a town just bonds it, says we don't get that subsidy, but we just did it. So I don't want to say this is the only way, but this was our way. Lastly, I would just encourage the fourth part of our policy list. So that's a project. Those are 2 solar projects, 4 different systems. I would encourage that there is a policy step to make solar affordable, and that involves simplifying your solar permitting. One of the big factors in New Hampshire is the variety of town procedures and policies and the fees. So those are soft costs, and we're working with everybody in the Seacoast to try to simplify and get that solar permitting process predictable and affordable. That goes right down to the homeowner or the business. And that's what this is a simplified process, trying to avoid unnecessary engineering stamps and things when you know what the construction is, things like that. The last thing I'll say is that property tax was a potential deal killer for our project. It's something that homeowners, if they have been told about it, that they might be assessed, just like putting a new carport on their house, that their property tax might go up. Most are not aware of the risk. Property tax exemptions are also a big part of keeping solar affordable and secure because it's a long-term investment. So I encourage you to do that policy piece. I'll just finish up by saying what's next for the committee. I've mentioned a few of the bonding and the ownership options around our solar panels. We believe that owning solar the committee believes that owning solar is one of the best paybacks you can have. And we're going to at least make that argument or do the math on that going forward. We're also trying to move out into the community and do what we can to make solar affordable and accessible for deal with some of the income equity issues and some of the other access issues to solar in the Seacoast. In a number of projects around the state, we're hoping that by the spring of 2017, we're in a place to offer a combined program, a solar up and a button up. That's our 2 themes, reduction and renewal, to merge weatherization, education, and a solar system. And the goal is that every house should see its electric bill now. It should see its electric bill after they do efficiency, and then they should see what renewable energy can produce out of it. That's 3 important moves, and we'd like residential solar to follow that pattern as much as possible. So that's our financial model. I haven't given you a ton on that, and I'm hoping Andrew can introduce us to some amazing, really not even dreamed of, bigger scale systems and financial models that were really experimental when we started our work. Thank you. Sorry,
I mentioned that this project did rely on a $500,000 grant.
absolutely. It's part of the grant and subsidies. I don't know what I did.
Trying to get, what was 3 to 2. And they're also once we went to the private company model, that they made taxable legal. So if we select them, we have a freedom to work out an acceptable rate for them. Because if we hadn't paid full taxes on the site, we would have thrown the financial model out of whack. So we ended up flat fee.
Flat fee, their current tax rate, something like $6,000, that's some equivalent of pilot, a property in lieu of taxes, something like that.
I would advise though, if you're going to wait, don't push your solar rate sometime.
Or engage them, much earlier. Lee did an unbelievable job responding to an unprecedented idea with a very tight deadline. We got the grant in June. We had to build and be done by the following June, which we did. But there was and we have a New England winter knocking us out. So, not only don't necessarily, if you are going to collaborate, which we ultimately did, including with our school district, you should definitely start as early as possible and understand that there are a lot of legitimate questions about taxable solar and fairness in this industry, especially with private company ownership. So great. Well, thank you.
The other important point, we are in one of the school buildings that we use for the school district, which is
I should be sure. Well, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Kellar. I'm from New Hampshire Solar Garden. Glad to be here. Have the opportunity to just tell some of our tales. I love the story tell about the type of experiences that I've had around the state. I've got about 4 slides to go through. I'm going to talk a little bit about my background. I'd like to talk a little bit about what is Group M here. What is this idea that allows us to build a solar project at a facility like they did in Lee, and then push the power, remove the power to these other locations. There'll be the 3 mechanisms that we find that we've created in our model, and we have Tom Gray here from Milton who can speak to some of the experiences that they've experienced and shared at the town level, and was really a pioneer and was very patient in the process, as I know it sounds like Durham was in their process, because they came together when these rules were still evolving. And I know when Tom and I first spoke, the rules weren't even finalized yet. So we have some of those challenges. Finally, I have a few projects that I just want to touch on, just give you some real life examples of what's going on, and finish up there. But what's interesting to me today is that, depending on how you follow the news, we've got this island of Puerto Rico that has 3.5 million people that don't have power today. The infrastructure of our grid is failing. And, the work that I do, which I'm very proud of, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to work with towns like Milton and some of those towns we work with, because we have the opportunity, like Durham had the opportunity, to enhance the infrastructure. And if we get to a place where we have these small, miniature power plants, which we don't want to call them power plants, they're clean power plants, we have this opportunity to diversify where the power is coming from. And unfortunately, due to we don't know all the details yet, but in Puerto Rico, one of their power plants has had issues, and it sources power to Jordan Island. 3.5 million people don't have power today, so the street lights don't even work down there right now. And it's a problem, it's a serious issue. So for a company like myself, which started about 3 years ago, to bring commercial scale, industrial scale solar to the state of New Hampshire, where it's my home, where I've built businesses in the past. I've been fortunate enough to start a biodiesel company called Green that man has run for many years around this community. I had the opportunity to work with the University of New Hampshire under the Green Start program to help other clean tech companies evolve and bring new different services to our community. And for me, it came to a time when I wanted to get back into my entrepreneurial skills and the love of the news source of energy. I love biodiesel. I love fueling up Dave Matthews and all the great bands and other folks that came around, and Coca-Cola and our own utility company. But this was something that I could stand behind 100% in front of any audience, in front of any critic, and say that what we're doing is positive for everybody. So what you're seeing here is Milton. Milton a testament to Milton's excitement to do something different and unique. And the lower one is a project that just was commissioned over in Dover. It's about a third of a megawatt on a beautiful piece of land behind an old farm. So what I'm going to do is just jump in. How does it work? This has all kinds of things moving around, but really what matters is that the way that community solar, which is what we call this group net metering concept, or virtual solar, is we're able to place a solar array on a location that's good for solar, a landfill, a sand pit, a farm piece of farmland, an old wooded lot that could be, could be used for that. And we are physically selling the power to be 100% transparent back to the utility company. They're buying our power for every unit of energy we produce every month for the life of this array. We then take that income in as an organization, and what we say, I think the PUCs actually use this term, they share the value of the power. So we have this economic value coming in, and then we have a certain amount of money that we get to share with a landowner, with somebody who wants to buy the power, with the town on a different structure for taxation of these items. And those are really the three main themes that we get to bring to these communities that we're working with, because the conversation we try to do a great job talking about the challenge of figuring out what your power rate is going to be and how do we bet on this as a community. If anybody in this room has a solution to that, I would love to talk to you and start your business, because who can figure that out? We all have great ideas of where energy rates are going to go, but our thought process was the energy savings is going to be what it is. We can guess it's going to be flat and go with the Durham model and have a little bit of savings here, and maybe some upside in the future. Milton went into a fixed agreement with us, which right now is about a penny and a half less than what they would otherwise be paying. But for us, what really matters is how can we bring in other aspects of revenue that can act like a hedge, an insurance policy for towns. Because none of us are respectively skilled enough to make judgment on where energy rates are going to go in the future. I think we all feel they're kind of going that direction, but we don't know how we judge on what's a good rate for power with my part position. But anyways, we have this kind of system where we have this money's coming in, and we're sharing it back with the off-taker. And the off-taker can also be the host or the location where we're putting this together. And the Public Utility Commission is really the entity that helps to guide us and give us rules to follow. And again, to come and the town of Milton's patience, level of patience, because those rules are ever changing. It was 3 years that the governor signed this law. 6 months later, they put in interim rules, and I think it was a week later that Tom called me to start an article about our work we were looking to do as a new company. He said, I just landfill can take a look at everything. And I'd done a landfill in Massachusetts, but never in New Hampshire, because it had never been done before. And he said, what do you think? Can we do it? I said, yeah, we'll figure it out. Be patient and set proper expectations we can make this happen. So there's really, again, there's three main components to where towns can look to effectively lower their rate for power. And the first option over on the left is leasing land. Milton has this landfill. There's no use for it. And they have, I'm sure, over the years have exhausted ideas that they have come across, but it just didn't make sense to do anything with it. And then here's an opportunity to lease a piece of land that's costing them because they can monitor it. And that becomes a stable source of income. There's no volatility. This is a fixed lease that they know is going to come in every year. Again, taxation is the real hot button right now, because there are certain communities fixed source of savings that's a guaranteed number for a town. We've got the land lease and the taxation. You know, so Milton's got about $16,000 a year coming in. They have a $30,000 a year roughly electric bill. So we're cutting the electric bill in half just with the two things that they can look every year knowing that we're going to write a check for that much money for those components of their energy savings. And then over and above that, they can save money in the electric bill. We model it over 25 to 30 years, and you can save them as much as $800,000. You know, right now, this year, based on where energy rates are right now, it's going to save about $4,000 per year. So 4 plus 16 is $20,000 on a $30,000 electric bill. So now towns have an opportunity to look at it differently. Like the $4 grand is going to be great, but we know the 16 is coming. And that's a component to how we've evolved this business model for other communities. Franklin has been one of our other kind of champions in our work that we've been doing, and they have multiple pieces of land around their community. Most of it was city-owned, and there's a few private places in there as well. So we came together and we have this opportunity to do a large amount of solar amongst many different sites. They're starting to get built in the next about 4 weeks from now. We'll start the first megawatt project in Franklin, and we'll start to tumble as all the permitting is taken quite some time. Antrim, another great project, a smaller project, but it's right next to the wastewater treatment plant. These are the sensitive sites where, to me, my position is solar is meant to be where you don't want to see it unless you want to go see it. You know, I mean, in Massachusetts, they're putting it everywhere. And good for them, they have great policy, it's a great place to do solar if you're into that. But they're putting it everywhere, they put it in people's backyards. But to me, solar is meant to be on a landfill. Solar is meant to be next to a wastewater treatment plant. Solar is meant to be on another landfill in Hillsborough. Solar is meant to be in the middle of gravel. That's where solar should be used, because it's a commercial usage of land. So these are some of the examples here of what we've seen. Hillsborough was, while it was approved by DES, I think within days after Milton was. We were fortunate enough to have a grant like Durham was to get this project done and provide the savings and value to the town. It was a big effort by everybody involved. We had some great leadership, besides Tom and his counterparts in the board of selectmen, the folks at the highway department. We just had a great team that's come together. This one did not have the luxury of that. So what we've seen in our industry is that, well, you've got this highly incentivized model that allows you to provide these type of savings to communities. As those incentives are going down, the great thing is so is the cost of solar. So what we're finding now, and the reason this is taking so long to start construction in the next couple of 3 weeks to 3 to 5 weeks, depending on when panels can show up at the site, that's got to the point where the costs have come down enough where those incentives have started to shrink or slide away, where the cost of capital in the market allows us to build these projects. It still offers some similar savings to the towns. As you can see, their lease is a little bit less, the total of their lease and their taxes are a little bit less. And that's for that, there's reasons why. And the last thing I'll say just on, that's I think an important issue here, is that our projects have a finite amount of money to share. And we can shift that. That's a great thing about the way the program works in New Hampshire, is that if taxation is a real hot button in your town, and it was in Hillsborough, we were able to give them a little bit higher pilot rate, and we lowered the land lease a little bit. But in other communities, energy savings is more important. So, okay, we lower these two and we give you a better rate. Like Franklin has a rate in the 8% range, has a higher escalation rate. So we're balancing how much money we have in the pot to share, and we look to the town to tell us what type of scenarios help them present to their community. So at the bottom here, there's a list of many other projects that we have going on. So just to kind of finish up here, and then open up for any questions to stay on schedule. We were fortunate enough to start our business right when it became interim. And our hope was in the first 2 years we would develop 2 megawatts of solar. We developed 14. 80% of that is municipal-based projects. That, I'd like to say I'm good at what I do, but that's not really true. I mean, I like what I do, I love what I do, so I guess I'm good at it. But at the end of the day, it's because these communities are excited about this. Like, Tom shares it with this person, that person should. I mean, like, you all know how small your community is and how communication spreads among shared communities. then when you have a planning commission and bring people together like this, it's a great opportunity to learn some more. So it just spread. So we've got 14 megawatts that are evolved and getting ready to construct. It took a long time to get this to achieve process. But as you see below, we have a project in Lee that's 180 kilowatts. We just built one in Keene at the jail for 50 kilowatts. We finished one in Dover. Those pictures there. We have one in Rochester that's getting ready to be built soon. We have another one in Milton on Untitled Chapter that's getting ready to be part of this next year project. We have one in Durham came upside down, where your energy rate when your agreement, like with Durham or with Milton, was both higher than what the rate was in the market, it would have to be so substantial. It would have to eat into all the savings you had from all the payments from the taxes and the land lease on day one, and then from that point forward, be that much of a savings. So that's kind of where we talk about the hedge. So we lumped it as a sum because it's the thing that all people love to talk about, the possibility of saving $10 million or $4 million or $800,000. It's an assumption. And that's why it was lump sum.
We used a 2.9 figure, for example, in that chart we showed. That was the model that I snapshotted, but we had numbers from historic 10 to 8%, which is a historic rate. These are weird times. Nobody expected gas to do what it's doing.
Right.
So we went down and we modeled kind of our break evens, and what we had a consensus in the room was a grim low inflation, straight much lower than history, and that gave us our kind of tighter band, which we had to kind of make peace with. So you can look at it that way. And as you said, we are not energy arbitrage. We're not in the business. What we are in the business of is certainty and planning and trying to have some insurance for various contingencies, and that's what our due diligence led us to. Sorry, Durham.
No, that's a great point. I'd like to just dovetail on that because at this point I didn't talk about it. I'm not going to get into the weeds of energy, but there's this thing called capacity payments that everybody gets affected by in New England. And capacity payments are just basically an insurance that every power plant that's online today can service all of us when we need to be. So there's a payment for that. That rate was like $3 to $5 per unit. I'm going to read what it means. $3 to $5. It's going to 15. It's an auction that's clear. So all of everybody's energy rate over the next from 2017 through 2009, almost 2020, has a portion has been set, and that's this capacity payment. And so that's going to increase everybody's electric bill by between 1 and 2 cents. Those are not my figures. Those came from the President source. And the numbers from ISO New England, because these numbers are clear at the auction. So that's this underlying thing that's bubbling up because we have power plants that are retiring. And that affects everybody's electricity rates. So we can make decisions and good choices like Charlie's done with his group in Durham, and we can lean on these things, but it's still not going to be that. Like I said, it's still not going to get it right. Tom's not going to get it right. People he lean on is going to get it right. But again, if we can lean on these two other components to offset that savings opportunity, then more than likely we'll keep the town plus.
So it seems like your timing was really, really well in this, and being able to utilize the group that metering, but that ability is kind of gone away for the time being. So can you talk at all about like the legislature's reluctance to increase that cap and the proceeding?
Great.
Do you see change the rate?
Yeah, great question. Again, that was the up and down that we felt and Tom felt on his project when we started, and then we weren't sure it started. So what has happened to that point now is that the state has a cap how many solar projects you can physically install. And that was 50 megawatts. It took 15 years to reach it. Or it took us 14 of those 15 years to get to like 7 megawatts, and 1 year to get to 50. Something to those rough numbers. And then the legislature said, oh God, what if we can't stop this industry? What do we do? So they put a Band-Aid on it. They gave us another 50 megawatts. They allocated 40 of it to small scale commercial and residential, meaning under 100 kW, just like the smaller projects around Durham. And they gave 10 megawatts to the bigger projects, from 100 kilowatts to a megawatt. For 2 seconds, I'm going to go on my soapbox. I told them on day one that we need fault. On day one, it was fault. We were backlogged because we had a lot of projects, so the project on the station want to do that. So now there's a rule of PCS until March to decide what the new program is going to look like. The reason why I'm not stopping my work is from experience, because there will be an evolution of this. Will it go the Nevada way where they killed it? Not like that. I mean, there's a chance, but there's a lot of strong people and voices fighting for a fair solution, not give me all the incentives I deserve or give me nothing. And we've built all of our projects and our expectations with our towns have been kind of in this middle range. So as long as it doesn't go too far this way, great. If it goes a little bit this way, well, that's the risk we took. So right now, today, you can still build a project.
I just want to build off of Lena's question. There was a really interesting article in Rolling Stone back in February. I don't know if anyone read it, but basically what it was talking about was solar initiatives being blocked because of, without calling any names out, two very affluent and powerful people that were funding money through organizations like the American Legislative Exchange Council to raise rates and to sort of make decentivize solar. And the focus was on Florida being one of the states that has the highest potential in the country, yet because of politics being involved, they're one of the fewest solar installations in the entire country, which to me doesn't make any sense. Yeah, it makes no sense. So I guess my question is, in your opinion, do you see any of that sort of impacting New Hampshire? And if it does, what impact that might have on long-term solar growth, if that is what we're seeing, that sort of blocking of that by large utility companies in the, throughout the United States?
I'll give some perspective. I don't know if you have any, Charlie, but I have something to add to that. But, one thing that we're lucky for in New Hampshire is just something that happened partly by coincidence, but the New Hampshire Electric Co-op was initially under the initial 50 megawatt cap statute of that. And they met their cap earlier than any other utilities. They had a very small cap to meet. And because they're a co-op, after they met that initial statutory requirement, they could do their own thing because they're a co-op. So they set their own program post-cap. Yeah, Peter, there's no cap. And the rates are what they are. The good news is, and hopefully nobody's going to force the utility here, but the reality is utilities don't throw each other under the bus. And we have the co-op who set a precedent in some way of how they felt it should be treated. Will there be people that will say we want to pay you 2 cents for power because that's the best way to spread it out once, have that argument? Yes. Will there be people that say we should get 50 cents a kilowatt hour because we're the next best thing to slice bread? Yes. My hope in seeing what happened with the co-op doing that, knowing the dynamic between these utilities, that everybody's going to try to work towards a fair share. We don't want to see what's happening in Maine, which is a real sad story because there's plenty of land and plenty of opportunity. We don't want to see what's happening in Florida. We don't want to see what happened in Nevada that just got turned around. The people that put solar on their roofs didn't even get grandfathered. They just got, you spent 15 grand on your solar for your roof, and you found out that you were expecting this 10-year payback. But because they changed the rule on you, you just went to 45 next. And you just spent your hard-earned money on the $15,000 solar rate. So we don't want to see all that happen. So I'd like to think that, and we also have the folks that are like Sunrun and Solar City, who are very large organizations that have very strong, there's a lot of power behind them. They have a lot to lose too. So we're banding together, but we've got precedent, we've got some of that. So I think we'll land somewhere in the middle, and it would be a good thing.
That's good to hear. I mean, it was a pretty shocking article. If you have a chance, it was in February's Rolling Stone. It was incredible.
The lower cost of solar is another factor that mitigates some of the impacts.
Right.
If I see on my bill a new fee to help compensate the grid for me being a member of it without actually buying any electricity, I also am paying less for my new panels. And utility prices are otherwise going up, so I'm getting a bigger benefit. So my payback may shift around from 12 to 20, somewhere in the 10 to 20 year range. And I think
selectmen, does that not by default raise taxes for people that do not have a vote?
What was your first question?
It's about the tax exemption. Is there an exemption?
Oh, yes.
What is the percentage of towns or how many towns? Dozens and dozens, many, many towns.
Yeah,
So we did a report on it.
50 or 60 towns that have some type of a residential.
Does that not force, from a selectman's point of view, everybody else in town pay more taxes for essentially doing nothing?
It's a part of, yeah, it's a great art, it's a great discussion. It's one we had with